Elon Musk has actually advocated against tax credits for electric vehicles, saying that Tesla doesn't need them. However, governments around the world have gone ahead and incentivized EVs, offering generous discounts in the form of thousands of dollars in order to persuade consumers to make the switch from ICE to electric. In the United States, for example, electric car buyers can qualify for up to $7,500 in tax credits, making it more affordable to purchase a Tesla or a host of other electric cars. However, in Canada, the tax incentives for electric vehicles have been much more limited, with only a few thousand Canadian dollars available in some provinces. But despite this limitation, there are certain conditions that can allow Canadians to get up to 50% off a Tesla using a tax incentive available only this year in 2023. This is a game changer for many potential electric car buyers, as it could mean saving tens of thousands of dollars on a new Tesla and making it more accessible for a wider range of consumers. And before we continue, stop using Yahoo Finance, stop using Google Finance, and have a look at our website, themarketisopen.com, where we have instant stock quotes and a brand new set of financial data going back 15 years, and it's all freely available. The world is rapidly switching to electric vehicles, challenging the dominance of fossil fuel-powered cars. While Canada is known for its large oil reserves, the country still imports foreign oil, most of which goes to Ontario and Quebec. Shifting to EVs has many benefits for the country, including reducing dependence on foreign oil, but also in creating jobs in manufacturing, research and development, and infrastructure development. Canada has plenty of natural resources which are in high demand for the development of electric cars. Zero-emission vehicles can also significantly reduce air pollution and improve public health. All of these reasons make it worthwhile for each province in Canada to invest and promote EVs for the long-term benefit of their citizens, and to not get left behind as other countries move quickly to do the same. However, the province of Ontario, which houses almost 40% of Canada's entire population, completely scrapped its electric vehicle incentive plans in 2018. This is a bit of a shame considering that the electric grid is primarily powered by renewable sources, including nuclear and hydro, having completely phased out coal between 2005 and 2015. 10% of the grid still runs on natural gas-based fossil fuels. Now, there is still an EV incentive for Canadians living in Ontario, but this comes from the federal government, which offers up to $5,000 on select vehicle models. In Tesla's case, this applies to the rear-wheel drive Model 3 and Model Ys, along with the long-range dual-motor Model Y. Of course, with Canada's inclement weather, including winter snowstorms, many Canadians would prefer to opt for larger, all-wheel drive vehicles, especially with trucks and SUVs being quite popular in the country. Now, while the all-wheel drive Model Y starts at $47,000 to $50,000 US, with the Canadian exchange rate, Tesla is selling the all-wheel drive version starting at 70,000 Canadian dollars, which is considered a fairly high-end vehicle price. Even with the federal government's 5,000 Canadian dollar rebate, the price tag quickly jumps back and further when adding in the 13% tax rate. This still makes electric vehicles in Ontario out of reach for many people. In neighboring Quebec, for instance, not only do buyers get the $5,000 federal credit, but the province will throw in another $7,000 on select models. Quebec residents also benefit tremendously from making the switch to EVs, as gasoline prices at the pump are much higher than in Ontario, and on top of that, Quebec has abundant and cheap power, given that an astounding 94% of the province's electricity is generated with renewable hydro. Now, while it seems like the Ontario government doesn't care about the EV revolution, the Canadian government is indeed quietly encouraging the adoption of electric vehicles through other tax incentives as well, that may be even more beneficial than its $5,000 rebate. In 2023, Canada is offering a 100% tax deduction write-off for electric vehicles purchased by businesses as an incentive to encourage their use. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to have a company or be incorporated to qualify for this type of credit. Any business can claim the tax deduction for electric vehicles used for business purposes, as long as they're not used for personal purposes more than 50% of the time. And the electric vehicle must be newly purchased or leased for at least 3 years and primarily used in Canada. Now, there are some other stipulations outlined on the government's website, but generally it's not that difficult to qualify for this type of credit if you're earning business income. There also doesn't appear to be a restriction on the price of the electric vehicle being purchased, only that eligible zero-emission passenger vehicles include plug-in hybrids with a battery capacity of at least 7 kilowatt hours and vehicles that are fully electric or fully powered by hydrogen. But there is a limit on the maximum deduction allowed, yet it's quite reasonable. The Class 54 passenger vehicle category, where electric vehicles fit in, typically has a 30% deduction rate and was originally capped at $55,000. But for 2023, along with the 100% deduction incentive, the cap has also been raised to $61,000. The same limits also apply to Class 55, which includes commercial vehicles such as taxis and rental cars. For these categories, the government is also suspending the half-year rule, which typically means that a deduction taken in the first year is divided by 2. For instance, a 30% yearly deduction allowance would only be 15% in the first year. However, they're putting this rule on hold to allow people to take full advantage of the 100% deduction in year 1. Now, making things intriguing is that this is the final year where this tax incentive fully applies. The ability to deduct 100% of the vehicle's capital cost allowance begins to be phased out for vehicles delivered next year in 2024, dropping to a 75% deduction until 2026, and then 55% until 2028, after which the remainder of the vehicle is depreciated using the traditional CCA rules. Yet these 75% and 55% values are still very meaningful deductions to take in the first year of purchase. But buying an EV in 2023 is still the best available option and could completely change the purchase price for many buyers. For instance, let's consider the long-range dual-motor all-wheel drive Model Y, which starts at under 70,000 Canadian dollars, but should qualify for either the $5,000 federal incentive or the 100% tax deduction when purchased for a business. The government only allows you to choose one of these options, and so you can select the one that better fits your profile. Anyone purchasing this Model Y in Canada will get access to a $5,000 credit, which means the $70,000 price tag drops to $65,000 before sales tax. But what if you buy the same vehicle for your business? Let's assume a 43% marginal tax rate, since you would still need to be making enough money to claim the full deduction and to afford the car. This 100% deduction means that the entire vehicle is treated almost as if it was an expense in the first year, and so the entire value is deducted from your income up to the maximum $61,000 allowable limit. This equates to a $26,230 deduction, making the purchase price of the Model Y just below 44,000 Canadian dollars, a massive incentive for buyers. And this money would come back the following year when taxes are filed. This is clearly a much more valuable incentive than the $5,000 flat incentive, although the numbers could vary based on your personal tax rate. For instance, if your marginal tax rate is 50%, and some tax rates can go even higher than this, and you opt for the rear-wheel drive Model Y, which starts at $60,000, the entire car would be tax deductible in year 1, giving the buyer 50% off. Again, all of the numbers mentioned don't include sales tax on the vehicle. And speaking of the $5,000 flat rate, the all-wheel drive Model Y classifies as an SUV, which has a maximum MSRP of $70,000 to qualify. And since it's priced at $69,900, you can't purchase very many add-ons with the vehicle without going over the limit. One workaround, however, is to purchase any software-based features after the car has been purchased. For instance, it doesn't make sense to include Tesla's full self-driving when ordering the vehicle, which will increase its price by around 20k Canadian dollars. But this software can easily be purchased afterwards so that it isn't grouped in with the purchase price of the car. The 100% tax deduction write-off for electric vehicles provides a significant financial incentive for Canadians to switch to EVs, even if some of the provinces themselves are not necessarily pushing as hard. Individuals with businesses can benefit from this incentive, particularly those that use vehicles for business purposes. The tax deduction is designed to help offset the higher upfront cost of electric vehicles in Canada and make them a more attractive option for consumers and businesses alike. And the tax incentive itself is an important step towards a more sustainable future, reducing Canada's carbon footprint and also contributing to North America's energy independence, while creating new industry jobs in the country, as Canada has vast resources that can be used to build EVs. Tesla appears to be keeping their incentives page up to date with the latest developments, but always double check with the government's latest rules before trying to make a qualifying purchase. As for Tesla, while Elon Musk has advocated against industry incentives, the fact is that they're now available in countries all around the world. And so as a result, Tesla will work diligently to take advantage of these discounts for the benefit of their consumers, which will be great for spurring demand for Tesla vehicles. So do you think Canada is doing enough at the federal and the provincial levels for incentivizing EVs? And do you think it's in their best interest to do so? Don't forget to watch my last video on whether or not Tesla should advertise. Please hit the like button and subscribe, we would really appreciate that. And a huge shout out to all of our patrons that helped us support our channel. Your support helps us to continue to make great content. Thank you guys so much for watching.